JJ the CPA here. Let's talk about when you need to go talk to your bank and you're in some financial crisis. So if you're in a situation like this, here's what the bank does not want to hear: that you're in financial crisis. Don't be overreacting. Don't be going to your bank in a panic. Because here's the thing, the bank doesn't necessarily as a crisis. The bank may not be in a panic. So if you're in a situation where you've done that, did you first talk to your CPA? No, then get and talk with them so that you can figure out and better assess what is the issues that are really coming in play here. The second thing to look at is what are the legal issues that you're dealing with. Got another video on the banker, because here's what the bankers want to hear. Are you ready for this? Are you listening? Are you focused in? Because they want to hear one thing. What are you going to do about it? Okay? So when you walk in and you say, hey, we've got a situation, a client has left us, or our major vendor no longer is in business, and so we have to find another vendor and it's more expensive. Whatever the problem is, the crisis, etc., if they know that you've already defined it, how long is it going to last, and then what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? When you talk to your CPA, what should they be looking at with you? Well, the first thing to assess is, how have the last 90 days been for your business? The last 6 months, the last year, and the last 2 years. Why? Because that's going to help predict what is the next 90, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year going to look at. So when you're looking at the last 2 years and trying to then forecast the next 2 years, here's what you as a business owner just thought through your mind. Well, how do I know what's going to happen in the next 2 years? Well, you probably know some things looking at the last 2 years, and that's overhead, right? Your general liability insurance, your health insurance, most likely your wages, your rent, the stagnant expenses that you're going to have every month, whether you show up or not. When you look at those last 2 years, that's going to better predict the next 2 years. If you're looking at employment and you go, well, gosh, how many employees do I don't know? Well, you do. If you look back over the last 2 years and you go, well, this is when we had the most employees 9 months ago, and then you evaluate why and you figure out, well, is that going to be the same case as we move forward? If you're in the situation where you go, well, my health insurance was $10,000 a month, and then 2 years ago, and then starting a year ago it was $11,000 a month, you go, well, there's probably about a 10% increase. So when you're looking forward, it's probably going to be 10% more in the next year, and then 20% more compared to today in the following year. That's just a simple example to say by looking at the past, you can predict the future. What does that have to do with your crisis? What does that have to do with your problem? Because the first thing you need to get your hands around is, what is it going to continue to be? Because like I said earlier, that doesn't change no matter what is going on in your business unless you do something about it. Your employees. Do you still need all the employees? And the key word there is need, okay? Not want, not, well, I'm not sure if I could ever let this person go. Well, then don't let them go. Who else are you going to have to let go of? But you don't act on any of that stuff until you talk with your CPA, evaluate with your CPA, evaluate with your attorney. Then what you want to look at is, by looking at the last year and the last 2 years, well, what were my sales? And if you lost a big client, what percentage of the sales were related to them? If you lost a major vendor, well, of all of the expenses that you have that you purchased from that vendor, what percentage went to them? And when you look at it, it may not be quite the impact, because when you start looking at percentages, you may say, wow, that was a major client, $100,000, holy mackerel. That's only 8% of our total revenue. If you look at a major vendor and you go, okay, well, we were buying 50% from that vendor. Well, there's another vendor that you were buying all from. Could you then move your business over to them? Here's my point. Figure out those things so that when you go to talk to your bank, you already have figured out the analysis on the way back, the analysis as you move forward. You're looking at your wages, you're looking at your costs, you're looking at how much your revenue is when it dropped, looking at the seasonal. And here's why. You know why the bank wants to know what it is that you're going to do about this? Because that's what their underwriters are going to look at. Underwriters are very smart and savvy. They've seen it all. They've seen the problems. They've seen the problems when they've made a loan to a client and now something's going wrong. They've seen it to where you now have somebody in your situation that's coming to them and needing a loan. that. Most of the time when you're talking with your banker, even if you've known them for a long time, that's your advocate to the underwriters typically in most banks. So laying it all out with them is great. They're going to take it to the underwriters, but it's the underwriters that are really going to have the questions and then make the recommendation to the bankers and to the review committee or the board on whether or not they feel that the loan is something that would be safe for the bank. Because here's what you need to remember. A bank's not interested in loaning you money if you don't know how you're going to pay them back, you don't know your cash flow, you don't know your way out of it. A bank's role is typically not going to be, well, here's how you get out of it when looking at overhead and wages and your direct costs and your gross. They might be able to help you figure out how to get out of it from a cash flow standpoint, but you would have to know all of those things up front. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I've talked with my CPA, and you lay down and you say, here's my last 2 years of the financials. I put together a quick forecast. Here's some things that I initially see that I'm going to change. I talked with my attorney, and I do think we're going to change these aspects of it. The bank is going to understand, first of all, that you've put your arms around what this issue is. You've helped them solve immediately what the severity is. They know that you're serious about that you're going to be able to work your way out of this paper bag, so to speak. And then the second thing that they are going to look at or be interested in is your cash flow. So by looking at all of the things that I just laid out, it's going to figure out your cash flow. And what's the real purpose in knowing your cash flow? So what is left over? All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoy my videos, and I hope you do, I would love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me.